When Lyndon Johnson and his administration began to use the military in America to slowly wear down our opponents in North Vietnam, a debate over America's proper role in the Vietnam War came to be. American responses were soon developed. During this war, America responded in two different ways. One side was multiple groups in America called the Doves. They were the ones that wanted the troops to be withdrawn and settle the war in a peaceful manner. On the other hand, there were also the Hawks. They were the opposing side, feeling that we should increase military force and send more troops to win the war. The Doves wanted to call for the end of the bombing of North Vietnam, and they wanted to negotiate to end the war completely. The Doves thought that, first, Ho Chi Minh should have been looked upon as a father or leader of his country. Second, it is the right of all people to choose their own government. Third, American military strategy was doomed from the start. Fourth, the U.S. handpicked South Vietnamese President Ngo Dinh Diem, who only maintained power through violence and a corrupt government. And fifth, innocent civilians being killed. There were massive anti-Vietnam War marches, protests, sit-ins, and student strikes in major cities and on college and university campuses across the country. The first march to Washington against the war took place in December 1964. 25,000 people took part, and it was one of the largest anti-war demonstrations in American history. The Doves protested the draft that was used by the United States government to force young adult men into uniform to fight the raging war on Vietnam. This angered the Doves because they believed that the troops should be coming home and not drawn in. Some of the anti-war slogans that were chanted at rallies were, "Draft beer, not boys," "Hell no, we won't go," "Make love, not war," and 18 today and dead tomorrow. And during LBJ's tenure as president, this is a very popular chant. "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" Although LBJ was haunted by the number of casualties toward American troops. The anti-war music of the Vietnam era took the children of the 60s to a different level. Musicians of this generation took the guitar-strumming troubadour from the coffee houses, plugged them in, and sent the music and the message into the college dorm rooms and the homes of the youth of America. Folk singers and rock stars appeared at anti-war rallies. But as the war escalated, the song that probably captured the intensity of feeling by young people who faced the possibility of serving in Vietnam through the draft was "I Feel Like I'm Fixing to Die Rag" by Country Joe McDonald.
Well, come on, all of you big, strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. Got himself in a terrible jam way down yonder in Vietnam. Put down your books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die.
Jane Fonda, a well-known actress of the 60s and 70s, was strongly against the war and took a trip to Hanoi, North Vietnam in 1972 to protest the war and got the nickname Hanoi Jane. Fonda said Americans should not hail the prisoners of war as heroes because they are hypocrites and liars. She later made apologies for actions and words she had said that may have been offensive to the prisoners of war and their families. In 1988, on a 2020 interview with Barbara Walters, she quoted, "I would like to say something, not just to the Vietnam veterans in New England, but to the men who were in Vietnam, who I hurt or whose pain I caused to deepen because of the things I said or did. I was trying to help end the killing and the war, but there were times when I thought I was thoughtless and careless about it, and I'm very sorry I hurt them, and I want to apologize to them and their families." As the war continued, more and more Americans turned against it. On Monday, May 4th, 1970, the students of Kent State University began a protest which grew into the most extensive anti-war movement in American history. What happened was the Ohio State National Guard fired into a crowd of Kent State University demonstrators, killing 4 and wounding 9, one of which paralyzed at Kent State, located in Kent, Ohio. of the 67 rounds over a period of 13 seconds of tear gas barrage was dramatic. The 4 students killed were Allison Krause and Jeffrey Miller, who were participating in the protests, and Sandra Schuler and William Notch Scouter, who were walking from one class to the next at the time of their deaths. The event triggered a nationwide of students to strike that forced hundreds of colleges and universities to close. H.R. Haldeman, a top aide to President Richard Nixon, suggested the shootings had a direct impact on national politics. In The Ends of Power, in 1978, Haldeman states that the shootings at Kent State University began the slide into Watergate, eventually destroying the Nixon administration. Beyond the direct effects of May 4th, the shootings have come to symbolize the deep political and social divisions. This later became a perfect example of why America was divided during the Vietnam War era. The United States became involved muchly in the undeclared war in Vietnam. Many Republicans and conventional Democrats believed that the Johnson administration was not doing enough to ensure military victory, while many on the left and in the Democratic Party believed the United States should get out of Vietnam altogether. The debate between the Hawks and Doves dominated the disorderly and bitterly challenged election of 1968. Another important group of the Vietnam War was the silent majority. It referred to those Americans who did not join in the large demonstrations against the Vietnam War at the time and who did not participate in public discourse. On November 3, 1969, President Richard Nixon made a speech to the silent majority in which he stated, "A quick withdrawal would result in a collapse of confidence in American leadership. A nation cannot remain great if it betrays its allies and lets down its friends." Also adding at the end of the speech, "I recognize that some of my fellow citizens disagree with my plan for the peace that I have chosen. Honest and patriotic Americans have reached different conclusions as how peace should be achieved." And closing up his speech with the silent majority by saying, "And so tonight, to you, the great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support." This was Richard Nixon's attempt to persuade the silent majority. The Hawks were the opposing side to the Doves. They were pro-war and wanted escalation of troops in Vietnam to end the war and all. Hawks included a majority of Republicans and many Southern Democrats. All these people said that the American troops were necessarily needed to stop the spread of communism in Vietnam. Unlike the Doves, for the Hawks, rallies, marches, and protests were not as common, but when they were, all the posters would poke fun at the Doves' beliefs and agree with LBJ, some of which would say, "Back LBJ in Vietnam," or "Victory over communism is the answer," and "Beat the Viet Cong." Many Americans were distressed that Vietnam might be the first war the U.S. lost. They believed that first, Americans should lend sea and air support to the South Vietnamese army. Second, the Air Force should bomb important economic and military targets. Third, the American Army should cut the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And fourth, the American military should train and supply the South Vietnamese Army. During the Nixon administration, the war was ended by the Paris Peace Accords. Neither the Hawks nor the Doves had any effect on the outcome of the Vietnam War.
It's 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7, open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die. Now come on, Wall Street, don't be slow. I man, this is war a go-go. There's plenty